topic is, what does it take to make a garden? Could even be, what does it take to make a homestead? But today I'm going to focus on gardening. What does it take to make a garden? And if you wait to start a garden, say, this didn't all just come about overnight. It took some planning and work. This garden spot here has been here approximately 50 years. And my dad started this garden, brought stuff in. When I was a little boy, we called in stuff from, there used to be a cotton gin. We'd call in cotton hulls in here. You could buy them really, really cheap back then. And so we'd buy those, and Dad, we'd put them in the back of his old 72 GMC pickup he had bought new, and we'd haul them in here and shovel them out. And I was pretty young then, but I did what I could, mostly probably being an annoyance to him. But anyhow, we this garden spot, they hauled in sand. There's a dam right here by us, and my dad helped work on that dam, and he drove heavy equipment, and he got some of the guys to haul in loads or two of sand and put on this soil. They had screenings that had a lot of lime in it. Some of the leftovers that was really trash material, so they thought at the time. They brought some of that in here, but this has always been a good garden spot. And after I took over here, why, I've continued on, but I helped almost from day one in this garden, and from a very young age. So I've worked this piece of ground a lot, but it didn't just happen overnight. And so if you're new to gardening, wanting to get into gardening, I just have some of the funniest stories. A young man the other day, he always a college boy, and he had come by here, him and his family. He wants to get into gardening because he thinks things are going to get bad, and I agree with him. I think things are going to get bad. But he's never gardened, don't know one thing about it except for what he watches on YouTube. Well, there's a bunch of people on YouTube that don't know what they're doing, and there's a bunch that know really well what they're doing. Some will say they've been doing stuff for years, but you can tell by what they do, they don't. And then some are such great gardeners, but they got weeds taller than their plants. And to me, gardening, you got to keep the weeds out. I spend about a half hour a day, Monday through Saturday, when I get up in the mornings and I feed my chickens. I'll come out and work in the garden about 30 minutes, and that keeps me, the weeds, not weed-free, because I definitely get weeds. That's a curse of God that He put upon mankind in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve fell. The Bible says that your ground would grow thorns and thistles, and certainly the weeds, and that's just talking about weed growth. And you know, you can, it's hard to grow corn out in a plowed field, but weeds will come up in a 50-acre asphalt parking lot. So, but anyway, this kid, he'd come by with his folks, and they had seen, I call him a kid, he's about 30-year-old, so, but they had seen the garden and stuff, and so he told me, and I said, well, I hated you to see it in the condition it was in because it needed tilled up, and there was some weeds and stuff coming up in here. And I said, I'd like to, he said, well, the answer is just put hay out, just put straw. Buy you a bunch of straw and just spread straw everywhere, and you won't ever have to weed again. And I said, oh yeah, is that what you do in your garden? Well, that's what I'm going to do in my garden, he says. He says, I'm going to start a garden, and that's what I'm going to do. And he'd watch someone on YouTube, and I was like, just because you put straw out everywhere does not mean you're weed-free. You're still going to contend with weeds or some other obstacle in your garden. But just if you're starting out gardening, it's going to take a little while to get the swing of things. And even if you've been gardening for years, and if you have been, you'll know what I'm talking about. You may have done something the same way every year, it's worked, and in one year, for some reason, it doesn't work. You know, there's so many things. Too much rain, not enough rain, pests, just all kinds of stuff. So keeping in practice and keeping going, do I have to garden to survive? No, I don't. But I believe there's going to come a time when you will need to know how to do some things on your own to survive. You may have to do container gardening if you live in town. Yeah, I see people doing rooftop gardenings. Now, I see a lot are getting into that. They live in a place that's got flat roofs where they don't get a lot of rain, and they'll put their garden on top. But everybody can garden a little bit. You can grow you a patio tomatoes in your house. I mean, all kinds of things. But if you try to wait until things are bad and then get started, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. Because first off here, I got a garden tiller I've had for a number of years. I've had several garden tillers, but I've got garden tiller. I've got gas for the tiller, oil for the tiller. I have garden hose that you chop the weeds and stuff with. I have stuff to lay rows off with. And I didn't get all that just overnight. I got watering hoses, soaker hoses. I even keep seeds. I'll buy seeds every fall. I'll buy enough seeds for the next year in case something happens during the winter to the seed banks. We go into a catastrophic event here in the United States. I've always got seeds, and I've got seeds that are getting old that I just hate to throw away. But I'll mark this year's seeds, date them, put them back, and then next spring I'll have seeds already. Works very well. I'm kind of a prepper / homesteader, I guess you'd say. But just tell you that if you're going to garden, get started now, and you're not going to be able to learn everything only on YouTube. And what if there was a EMP, something happened and you couldn't watch YouTube? What if YouTube went down and you couldn't get those videos? What you have up here, your head knowledge, is your best. So you get started. I see people every year that their garden kind of goes wrong. They just get to plow the whole thing under, and some just quit and never garden again. I don't believe in that. I like a challenge, and that's one reason I'm doing what I do and live out in the country, is I like a challenge. I know I can go to the store and get it. Some say you can get it just as cheap at the store as you can growing it on your own, but it's not near as tasty, and it's not near as healthy for you as what you actually grow on your own. There used to be a canning factory where we lived that canned vegetables like green beans, and the green beans would set in these big 18-wheelers. I think they sat in there for several days, but they would get to stinking. I suppose down on the bottom, the rotting, the liquids coming down from the others in a big old 18-wheeler trailer. They used to grow them over here and come over and harvest them, and they'd let you get the leftover green beans. Now they won't let you have the leftover green beans, but people who can would gather them up in clothes baskets, bring them home. I remember my mom used to can all kinds of green beans. Our neighbors, my aunts, everybody, we had plenty of green beans to eat. You didn't need to grow them because they grew them here. Now they won't let you have the leftovers. But those green beans at that factory would get to stinking. You'd go by there and it smelled like a sewer, and I believe it was because of those trucks full of green beans. I like it here. We get them fresh. I bring them in usually before evening time, if not the very next morning. My wife's got them snapped and she's processing them, getting them ready, and I don't spray any harsh chemicals. I would if I needed to, but I don't need any chemicals here to spray on my green beans. They do fine. Yes, we get a few bugs that eat holes in them, different things here and there. We just throw those aside to the chickens. They get harvest out of them. But and then the rabbits sometimes want to eat the green beans when they're first coming up. We have obstacles here, but we make it. And every year I advance. I feel like my skills are getting better and better and better as time goes along. And your skills will too, if you'll let them. And but if you're going to get into gardening, what does it take to do a garden? Like I say, I spend about a half hour a day, 6 days a week. I don't do anything on Sundays. I may walk through the garden just as a relaxing tour. You know, this old song says, I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. Well, mine would be while the dew is still on the squashes. But I'll come to the garden and I'll walk around through here, and I thank God for blessing us. And I take a day off on Sundays, and it's for me. That day off blesses me so much, and I believe the Lord appreciates us taking a day off in honor of Him. So, but then I go to church. The only schedule I have to keep is I go to church on Sunday morning, and I have to be back on Sunday night. Otherwise, I don't do any kind of labor that I don't have to. There's times stuff comes up that I have to, but I'll be out here walking on Sundays and see a weed. I don't even pull it up. I'm like, no, I got Monday through Saturday. I'll spend a half hour each day, roughly, and there's been times that I might get out here and spend 2 hours. Now, early spring, usually around Good Friday week, there are some longer times. I might spend 3 or 4 hours, several different days, tinkering around in the garden. That's just because around Good Friday here, you're pretty much frost proof, and you don't have to worry about frost, and you pretty much have everything out, your tomatoes, all that. Now usually I'll put onions out much earlier, but even my onions this year, I had 2 rows of onions out within an hour's time, and that wasn't getting in no hurry, just taking my time. And yes, I've had to come out and weed them. I'll usually do on each row every morning, do what I call a heavy weeding, and then it's just light weeding after that, just pulling the weeds out. I call it a heavy weeding because they'll get because we had so much rain here, there was days I couldn't get out here and pull the weeds because I would have sunk down in the soil. So when it gets to where I can, then I go out and finish up. Hey, I appreciate you watching. God bless you. We'll see you next time here on the Homestead. I've got a phone call coming in. We're gone.